Hello guys, in this tutorial we're going to go through some interesting things you can do to create textures and add textures to your images you're creating in Photoshop to kind of really make them pop and to make a difference and make a creative effect. So I'm going to go through 4 different ones. This first one is a kind of, there's some text here over the top of a sort of cracked paint wall. It's okay, but it would be cool if we could maybe make it look like the text is actually on the wall or something like that. So I'm just going to run through how to do that. So what you do first of all is just hide this text layer. So you can do that by clicking on it and then clicking on the eye to hide it. Okay, so next thing you're going to do now, click back on your layer. There we go, with the distressed image on. Now go to select, and then click on it first, select, and then you want to click on color range. Now you see here it has got sample colors. Yeah, so you can click on your image here. So choose sort of a sort of darkish tone on there. You'll see it's now changed. Now you can change the fuzziness here. So this sort of how much displays, not a lot versus quite a lot. I'm going to go quite high with this one, so about 186. Okay, and then click OK. Now you'll see once you've done this, you've got all these marching ants on the image here. So that's just the selection it's made. So what you're going to do now is Control C on your keyboard to copy it, and then Control V. And you'll see it's added a new layer here. Now what I'm going to do now is just drag this layer above my text and then turn the text back on. So you can see now it's sort of copied all of the cracks from the image below and added that to the text. Now the text is alright, but the text could still look a little bit better. So I'm just going to play with a couple of filters here to give the text you know, some more edginess to it. You know, you can get brushes and other effects which will kind of do this for you, but obviously they cost money in most cases. So I'm just going to go with things that are readily available in the software. So if I go to filter, now one of my favourite ones for sort of adding a bit of a distressed retro look is the ripple tool. And the ripple, that's what it says on the tin, it adds a bit of a ripple effect to the text. Now I'm not going to go too big with this one, so I'm going to go sort of quite low just to add a tiny bit of a wobble to it, which would be right if you're painting it on by hand, if it's like an old painted on text. So click OK. Now that adds a tiny bit of wobble to it. If I zoom in, Control plus to zoom in, you can see it's added a little bit of a wobble to the text. Okay, other thing I'm going to do is add another filter. This time I'm going to add a slight blur to it. So I'm going to add a blur and then go to Gaussian blur. And again, this just sort of adds a little bit of motion to it and a little bit of sort of softens the edges a bit. I can't quite see where our text is on here. It's up there. There we go. So you don't want to go too mad with this. You can see it's giving that a slight blur on the edge, but if you can go up like really high, it would look quite unrecognisable, as you can see down below there. So we don't want to go that high. Let's go for 0.5 pixels. Just gives it a smidgen of it. Yeah, that looks pretty good there. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to add is go to filter and then noise, and I'm going to add noise to it. So again, this gives you sort of a little bit of a kind of distressed, sort of edgy. Not quite right. You see there's got like little dots on it there. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So I'm gonna click OK. So that's now given our image sort of a better effect of how it looked before. So if I turn this off and turn the filters off with the eyeballs there, so you can see how it looked before versus how it looks after, which is much better, I think. So let's turn that back on. Oh, my keyboard's playing up. But yeah, so you've seen the before and after that one. So that's the first example. I'm going to crack on now with another example. Okay, so in this example, again, you've got a distressed paint image. This one's a little bit more distressed than the other one. Very similar technique. The first thing we're going to do is turn off the text layer. Click on our first layer. And then we're going to go to select, color range. The same again when it comes up, sample colours, and again you want to sample a nice sort of representative colour from the image, and again you can play a little bit with the, let's see what else we've got in there. Got darker colours, lighter colours. That's possibly a little bit too high this time. Let's go for that. Okay, click OK. So again, once it's done its thing, you're going to get lots of marching ants on it. So similar again, Control C to copy it, Control V to paste it in a new layer, click and hold and drag your layer up to get it to go above it. Tick this on, so you'll see now this is very, very, very distressed. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to click on here, I'm going to add some of the filters. So if I go to filter, and I'm going to do the first one first, which will be the ripple. So this will be quite similar to the last one. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger this time. So I'm going to go for something like 60. This is quite heavily distressed. There you go. So that's added a little bit of a distressed effect to it. Now I'm going to add the blur. So filter, blur, and then you want to go to the Gaussian blur. And again, kind of happy with that. Just up a little bit. It's possibly a little bit too. Actually, no, it kind of gives it a nice faded effect. So I'm going to leave that on 1 pixel there. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to add the noise again. Add noise. One thing I can suggest to you do with these filters is just have a play about with them all. You can tick them on and off and delete them. So I'll show you in a minute. Again, this noise. What have I got from last time? Yeah, so that's quite similar to last time. So yeah, I'm going to put that on there. But if you decide, actually, I don't really like the blur, you can turn it off. Yeah, it's completely non-destructive to your text. So I can turn all of these off and it will disappear. So there you go, I'll turn it back on again. So as you can see there, we've distressed this one quite heavily. If I turn this off and I can turn the effects off again, there you go, you'll see how it's going back to normal, and you know the effect's quite vast on this one. Turn it back on, turn the layer back on, there you go. So that's a couple of examples of distressing quite heavily. Now we're going to move on to our next one, which is going to be a watercolour effect. So, in this one we're back with another example, and this time it's a watercolour. At the moment it doesn't look particularly watercolour-y at all. The font's obviously already quite heavily rippled and distressed because it's designed to be that way. The hearts don't look at all distressed at all. So I'm going to use the old one I've been using in the last one. So filter ripple, because ripple is a great way of obviously creating a sort of painted effect. So I'm going to filter, distort, ripple. So this time you need to convert it to a smart object. Which is fine because it's just a shape at the moment. So click yes when that comes up. Right, let's find it on here. Minus this out. There we go. So they're hiding over there. Right, so we can have a look at how it will look once we do it. So at the moment it's not particularly obvious. So I'm going to change the size to large. There you go. It's a little bit more obvious now. And you can see you can add more or less. It looks a little bit crazy after a while. I'm going to stick with 80. I think 80 looked sort of okay. There, so that's sort of distorted that a little bit. Do exactly the same with the other one. So filter, ripple. Excellent. So the other thing you can do here now is you can place over a colour overlay. Sorry, not colour overlay. An image overlay. So a texture pattern. So in this case, I've got one. I made earlier. So I've got textures folder here. So this one here, if I put this in here, paper, this is going to load in here. Excellent. So what I'm going to do is just drag it so it covers the entirety of our image here. Excellent. Right, and then hit enter to confirm, or the tick up here. One of those works. So obviously at the moment you can see we've made everything disappear. So what I'm going to do here now, so what we're going to look at here is the blending modes. Now this is one of the best tools in Photoshop, and you can do quite a lot with it. So I'm going to do this and cycle through them so you can see what it does. So obviously some of them it won't have much effect at all. Some of them it won't be a very noticeable effect. So if I zoom in a bit more so you can see the textures of the paper, you can just about see the texture of the paper underneath here. I'm going to keep going. So you've got colour burn, not a brilliant one. Linear burn, yep. Darker colour, lighten, like I say, some of them, you know, won't have any major effects at all. So linear dodge, add, lighter colour, overlay, soft light, hard light. You know, there's quite an option on there, and some things will work well against, you know, different colours and backgrounds, and some of them won't work so well. So for the one we were just looking at, I think the linear burn probably gave the best effect. So you see how it's kind of given the mottled paper look to the text, and also to the background, and also to the hearts as well. So you can kind of see that sort of papery pattern coming through it, which looks a lot more watercolory than it did in the beginning. Now again, there's a lot more you can do with this, but keeping it simple for now. This is just simple ways that you can add texture to your designs. Okay, so that's the third example. Last but not least, in a minute, we're going to go over to a retro design. Okay, hey guys. Right, so this is number 4 in our examples here. Now, as you can see here, I've got a retro sort of image here. I've got a create a cool retro look text here. So I'm going to start again because I want this to kind of look like old paper. So I've got like a sort of old tinged background, so I changed the background colour on this one. Now I'm going to use the ripple effect again. I know I use the ripple effect a lot, but I quite like the ripple effect. Obviously, like I said to you before, play with these. They're completely non-destructive, which means you can always get back to your original by just using the eye to turn it on or off, or just drag it to the bin and delete it. Right, distort and ripple. Again, convert it to a smart object because it's text at the moment. Okay, so let's find our text on here. Tends to hide away. Okay, create a. If I zoom in, obviously this is still here from our last one, which we definitely don't want. So it's a little bit overkill. Let's change this to say 60 or something. You only want quite a subtle one on this one, because it would be essentially you're trying to simulate how ink would work on paper, so you get a little bit of a bleed of ink on paper. So I'm going to click OK on that one. Happy with that. And luckily, once it's done it once, we'll just need to copy and paste the effect for the same one, or not copy and paste the same effect. Okay, so cool retro again. So this time, instead of going for it, my computer's started to lag. So filter, just have to click this one and it will apply exactly the same effect with exactly the same settings, so you don't need to do it over again, but it will yep, there you go. So it's done that exactly the same. And likewise, I'm going to do the same for this text. So filter, ripple. If you wanted to make a change to it or make it slightly different to the one before, you then have to go into filter and distort and ripple, and then it will bring up the settings like before. Okay, layer 1, filter, and then again distort, and sorry, I'm going to go back to this one. Actually, because this one is our image, I might have to tweak this one slightly different, so I'm going to go in this way this time. So go to distort and ripple. So we can see here it's quite it's actually not too bad at the moment, so I'm kind of, I might up it a little bit to 60 and then hit OK. Okay, so if I zoom in on this, so Control Plus to zoom in, you can kind of see now where I've made it slightly, yep, so it looks like it's kind of got a little bit of a bleed on there, so a little bleed on the paper. Right, so what I'm going to do now to add to the effect is similar to the last one, in that I'm going to bring up some textures. Now, so I'm going to add this one called grunge. So I'm going to drag this in, or you would do File and Import. Now, obviously at the moment it's the wrong way around, so I'm going to right click on it, and then rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Obviously it doesn't matter which way you do it first. And I'm going to zoom out, Control minus on the keyboard, and then I'm just going to make this fit the page properly. So hold down the shift key when you're dragging it to keep it in the right aspect ratio, so it doesn't appear all squished. Okay, and then drag that out a little bit. Oh, don't want sticky keys. That's what happens when you hold the shift key down. Okay, and then again, enter to confirm, or the tick at the top. Right, so similar to last time, it now appears that our image has disappeared. It has not. So we're going to use these blending modes again. So if I click on here now, have a look through, and then you can just use the arrow keys to have a look to see what works. So that one's, yeah, not brilliant. Multiply. I'm going to zoom in so you can get a little bit more of a idea of the effect. So multiply doesn't actually look too bad on this one, kind of looks like it's been photocopied a few times. Colour burn doesn't really do anything. Linear burn, again, linear burn's not too bad. Darker colour is quite nice, it kind of gets rid of the background paper. Highlighter's obviously useless in this case. So you'll see some of them work, some of them don't. Okay, so there you go. So there's kind of a little look at what some of them do. So I'm probably going to go back to, I think Multiply was the one I think looked kind of best in there. So yeah, so that's a good start in making it look a bit retro. And the other thing I'm going to add now, and this is something that I found on the internet, is again another sort of texture to make it look like the paper's been folded. So I'm going to do exactly the same as with the last file import, or you can do, so I've got this one here which is folded paper. Oh, the mouse gone a bit funny. Yeah, so again, I'm going to click and drag that in. And again, I'm going to zoom out so I can resize this. Now this time, because of what it is, folded paper, I do want it to fit nicely in here. So I'm just going to drag it till it fits the edges. Okay, and that's it. Click OK. So again, at the moment, it looks like we've just completely got rid of everything. But again, using these blending modes, so click in here and then click out of it and then use the arrow keys to zoom through them. So sometimes they'll work, sometimes you just about to see a little bit of an effect on there, but that's not going to be helpful. Colour burn, linear burn, darker colour, lighten. So lighten's a good start. Screen, not too bad. Colour dodge, not too bad. So linear dodge, add lighter colour. Overlay creates quite a very dirty look on it, doesn't it? Soft light isn't too bad. Obviously vivid light is not at all helpful on this one. Hard mix. So again, so going through all of them. So I'm probably going to go for, I think it was one of these ones which had looked quite bad. That one, maybe that one. One of those two. I think that one kind of makes it look a little bit more kind of photocopied. So I'm going to go for linear dodge add. Okay, so that's fine as it is. The other thing you can do, again, as I said, you can get special brushes that you can buy for Photoshop, which will kind of give you, in fact, their very design is that they're ink splatters or they're sort of retro splodges, and they can create some really cool effects. But again, you tend to have to pay for those. Not that there's anything wrong with paying for them. I have a selection myself, but I'm just going to show you stuff you can do, obviously in school or at home. So go to the brush tool, and you want a soft brush. So I've got a soft brush here, and you want it nice and big and with a low flow. So that means that it's not going to come out full on colour. Now colour wise, I'm going to click on here, double click on there to bring up the picker, and I'm going to use this to pick one of the colours for my background, but I want to make it slightly lighter. Okay, click OK. So at the moment I'm on my create a layer. What I'm going to do is, that's me. So yeah, it's going to rasterize the layer so I can draw on it. That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to, might be a little bit too big there. Let's see how we go. So I make it a bit smaller using the square bracket. I'm going to kind of click about on it a little bit. Yeah, and then the same on the cool retro layer. So yeah, I'm going to sort of click about on it, kind of make it look a little bit faded, and then same on the look layer. You see how just that tiny bit of paint that's coming out of there can make the text look quite faded. And then again with the layer one, this one already looks quite nice. It looks a little bit faded, but I'm just going to add a little bit more, maybe a little bit too much. Actually, no, that kind of works. So you can see how you can play about. Obviously, you won't want to go too crazy, because if I did this over and over and over and over again, it will kind of disappear. Which, if that's the effect you're going for, could work quite well. So if you did want to undo it, Control Z for the first one, and then Control Alt Z for the others, or you can go to Edit at the top, Edit, and undo or step backwards. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you some ideas. I mean, I can sort of, in fact I can't go back on this one, but you know, it's giving you some ideas of 4 different looks you can create. So this is the one that creates a retro effect. This is the one we use to create a watercolour, which if I zoom in, you know, you can see gives you more of an effect that it's actually been painted on. The cracked paint effect, so that was using the select and the colour range to create a new layer, and we used a very similar effect on the first cracked paint one as well. So hopefully that's given you some ideas of what you can do with textures in Photoshop. Don't be afraid to play around. One of the best, you know, ways of stumbling upon something exciting is by playing around, and that's how I've stumbled across stuff over the past. And I look forward to seeing what you create. Feel free to share them with me. Okay, thanks for listening. Goodbye.